you do get to have a say. It's not all about, what the client wants. It's like, what do you want to do? What kind of service do you want to offer? What, how much do you want to earn? How much do you want to work? Really looking into all that aspect of your business.
The goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creatives where we sit down, often with a special guest, and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry. On today's episode, we're talking branding with David McGinty and Gail Kelly from Walnut Wasp, a creative agency based here in Glasgow. If branding is more than just your logo, how deep does it go, you may ask? Well, we find out as we cover the effects branding has on clients, as well as how focusing on your branding can lead to a more fulfilling career in the wedding industry. Gregg and I go into some details about our rebranding process and what was involved in how differentiating ourselves led to an increase in our bookings and a boost in our happiness. Walnut Wasp give you advice on how you can do the same too. All of you listening are going to benefit from today's episode as we find out why everyone should put more attention to their branding. So keep listening. I should mention that David also has a salty segment right at the end of this episode where he gets really passionate about a piper. This episode of Perspective is sponsored by With Jack, but we'll get on to that a little bit later in the show. In the meantime, Gregg, what are we drinking?
We are back to good old coffee, and it's the Good Coffee Cartel again.
That's right, our favourites.
I got my monthly subscription through last week.
Mm-hmm.
So you get your normal can, and then you get these, which are like a wee bonus with your subscription.
That's right.
So that's not got to last me a month.
Yeah, it's very cute. I love the can, but they don't have any other information on it. No taste notes.
But we'll have to taste it and find out.
It's an Ethiopian cookie.
Cookie.
Hello, guess. How would you say this?
I would say we're starting off the morning with some Ethiopian Coke.
Oh, yes.
See, I'd have went cookie.
Cookie?
Well, I'd say Coke because there's no sort of if I'm going to cookie it, I'm going to have a wee flick above the E, am I not? Or
maybe
a little umlaut or something.
I don't know how things work in Ethiopia.
Anyway, David, you're actually not going to drink this. You don't drink coffee.
I'm on the Iron Brew Extra.
I can't believe we've got you in here.
Pure Scottish man.
Sorry. That's only the first way in which I'm going to disappoint you today.
So we like to start the podcast by just debriefing our weekend. So just chatting about what we've been up to.
Which will be interesting, because normally it's people who've been out working on weddings.
That's right.
Yeah.
You guys don't actually go out and shoot, or...
That's true, we don't shoot weddings anymore.
You do have a band. Was it out?
No, Gail and I were shooting a wedding on Saturday.
You're kidding.
Oh my, no. Sorry, guys. Yeah.
That's like if you'd asked us that question any other weekend of the year, it would have been a different answer.
This is brilliant then.
Yeah,
brilliant.
we were shooting an elopement in Edinburgh. It was awesome.
A very lovely elopement. A young couple in Edinburgh, and it was we were the witnesses and the photographers, cool. And it was very nice.
It was great, and it was the last wedding that we have scheduled. Never say never, but
as Rooftop?
Yeah.
Mosaic?
Rooftop Mosaic, that's right.
That's right.
Nice. Yeah, it was really good.
Were the couple foreign? Were they over?
No, they were from Nikki was from South Shields, Newcastle way, and Sean is actually from Edinburgh, but they live down south, so they were sort of eloping up here, just the two of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
We had good overcast weather and just chilled out day, plenty of time, so it was really good.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Edinburgh's always a cool place to do a shoot.
Yeah, not to drive, but to shoot.
No, to drive's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible place. I don't like Edinburgh for that.
I was actually over in Edinburgh as well.
Were you?
I took my nephew to see the Kilmarnock game.
Right.
They were playing Hibs. So yeah.
You're a Kilmarnock fan?
Of course.
I see.
Yeah, that's the only reason you would go to that game.
Yeah. I've met a Kilmarnock fan then.
We got beat, but it was still a good day. Took him to his first away game.
Yeah.
Did he enjoy it?
He did, yeah.
Did you teach him some horrible songs? And
I didn't, but there was a few people around me who felt that the other team were cheating or the referee wasn't very nice.
Yeah.
So hopefully he didn't pick up too much of that. Simon, what were you up to?
Actually, my wife, who is rebranded, funnily enough, to the Mighty Mama Coach, launch her new studio in Finnieston
Cool.
on Saturday. So we did that. I shot some snaps, and it was a good night.
Nice.
Yeah, kids were babysat by Gran, so it was a late night.
Awesome. What's the name?
The Mighty Mama Coach.
Cool. Love it. Very cool.
We also we went on Friday night to see
To see the Jurassic Park
with
in
the
concert.
live orchestra.
Oh,
At
cool.
where were we at? The Armadillo.
At the Armadillo. With she's asked us not to mention her name, but with Joe Donaldson
And Liam.
and Liam. That's right.
So that was that's like Jurassic Park's the best film.
So what was
ever
the setup
made.
there? Was the film playing and live musicians playing along to it?
They were on this. The orchestra was on the stage, so you could like see them, and they had a projector playing the
Nice.
film at the back. It was
Yeah.
really cool.
There's no music they had a music-free version of
Yeah.
the film playing, and then the orchestra plays it. It was awesome. It was really, really great.
Did it make it more intense?
I'm not sure. No, I think it made it more distracting because you half
Okay.
the time you were paying attention to the orchestra, half the time you were paying attention to the movie. So it kind of took you out of the movie a wee bit in the best possible way because
Yeah.
there was something really fun to pay attention to in the
Yeah.
program.
And I suppose you've seen the movie multiple times
Yeah.
anyway.
Exactly.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah, totally.
Who is David and Gail, and what's your connection to the wedding industry?
So I'm David McGinty. This is Gail Kelly, my wife.
Maybe need
I'm
to get into
sorry,
that.
I'm just stirring the pot. I'm
Why
sorry.
didn't you take each other's names? Who?
Well, I didn't take Gail's
Nobody
name
want to.
for the traditional reasons,
Right? Yep.
and that it's extremely socially unconventional to do so.
And you just stubborn.
I like my name. Didn't love the sound of Gail McGinty as a name. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm an extreme feminist. So.
That's totally fine.
A radical one, not one of the sensible ones.
Yeah.
I think we're going to cut all of that.
No.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay.
It's
But yeah,
okay.
so-
My wife's one of those.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you guys do? What's your thing?
Our thing is we run a creative agency. We do predominantly graphic design, which includes things like web design. We do filmmaking and we do photography for small businesses, medium-sized businesses. Yeah, we basically help businesses to kind of present themselves better, to look better, to distill their sort of story into tangible elements that they can use to further their business, basically. We're both from a wedding industry background. Gail's been a wedding photographer for a few years now. I was a wedding filmmaker. So we know the wedding industry quite well, which is ultimately, I think that's how we kind of know you guys. And we've done loads of work for wedding suppliers, and we did some free marketing advice stuff for wedding suppliers over the last couple of years. Yeah, that's kind of it.
Why don't you sort of explain a bit more what the whole branding sort of includes and what it is for people? Because I think a lot of people start up as a photographer, say, and they're like, right, I've got a website, I'll just use my name and I've got a logo and think that's me, I'm done. I've got a brand image.
Yeah, for sure. You're absolutely right. And I realise already I kind of mangled the first answer to your first question there. But basically, yes. So to me, like, branding is about... So if we think of like the brand of Iron Brew, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you think of when you think of Iron Brew as a brand? Like, what are the types of things that spring to mind for you guys?
I think of Scotland.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely Scotland and sugary sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
I think of
Hangover cure.
Yeah.
Definitely that
Comedy
orange
sort
and
of
blue.
elements to it as well. Their
Yeah, totally.
adverts were always quite iconic.
Oh yeah.
Like tongue-in-cheek and
Yeah.
very sort of cheeky.
They've got like their colour schemes just very bold as well and recognisable. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that is a collection of stuff that some of that is obviously aesthetic, and then some of it is like personality, and some of it is, you know, there's it's a very wide range of stuff. So I think that when we talk about branding, it's kind of a malleable phrase, and we're really talking about the personality of the company and what we want people to say about our company. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's actually a much bigger question than just graphic design elements or just photography and video, even though some of the outputs that you would come up with tend to be in those areas. So I guess I agree with you entirely. People starting businesses with the kind of default decisions, you know, like I'm going to use this name because it's my name, or I'm going to, and very often that's a good choice. By the way, I'm not suggesting that using your own name is a bad choice. I think that it's often completely fine, especially if you have a great name. Like there's some great names out there.
Yep.
Chantal LaChance Gibson. That's a great, if you're born with that, don't change a thing. But yeah, like I guess that one of the things that I agree with you that some people are missing the opportunity to be a little bit more involved and to take the opportunity, even as fundamental an element as their business name, to start communicating stuff about their business.
Because when we work with sort of people on branding projects, the end result is a logo, but it is more than that throughout the process, and it's actually a little bit more than that at the end result as well. We sort of look at everything from, sometimes we are involved with the actual naming of the business and sometimes we're not, but we also look at things like signature language that they're sort of putting out. We do some image creation work for them as well to make sure, like if it's photographers or things like that they're putting out the right kind of stuff.
And then you're building up kind of other graphic elements you can use. You're building up colour schemes you can use, typography, all of that stuff. You guys went through a rebranding process. How long ago was that?
We did.
It started a long time ago, but it finished recently, at the start of this year. So
Right,
we launched the new sort of image earlier this year.
I love it, by the way. I really like your
thank you.
your logo and the new brand, and I just love how, like, a lot of the things we say to people, and it's like, you know, you've kind of done all that stuff. Not that, like, I don't mean that we told you to do it, but I just mean like you've taken that on board and you've really like launched with everything. You've looked at your whole package and your whole service, and it's not just a let's get a new logo and not change anything else sort of thing. It looks really good.
Yeah. We had been sitting with the same sort of logo and website and look to our sort of company for about 7 or 8 years. And it just got to the point where we're like, this is not representative of the work we're doing, who we are, and where we want to go. So we're like, we need an overhaul of the whole image.
And at that time, we needed an overhaul of everything. As creatives, we weren't inspired by what we were doing. The expectations of clients kind of stopped us from being creative, essentially.
Right.
And moving forward. So, when we went through that branding process, we realized that there's actually just a lot of stuff that we need to change.
Right. Yeah.
Not just the brand itself. So it was a really in-depth process.
Yeah.
Obviously in-depth on both ends, like our end, having to change the way we see our work and ourselves and how to portray that, as well as going through like, okay, who do we want our films to be for? What do we want to say to those people? I think that's why it took us so long, because it was just like everything was changing.
Yeah.
And it has a way of making you, I think, look at everything you already do, figure out what parts of it you kind of like and want to keep, and what parts of it you're doing because you've fallen into patterns. I think it's a really purifying process to go through that, and because you're figuring out, okay, well, you're almost starting from scratch in terms of what do I think fits inside the box of ideas that represents our business, and what's the stuff that we've just gathered up along the way, or that we thought worked, 8 years ago. 8 years ago that's a huge amount of time to think how much progress has been made in,
especially in the wedding industry as well. When you look back at styles and trends back then, it is totally different now.
And I think even like what the client wants, like what they want from it now, versus 8 years ago, it's probably quite different as well.
How often should people look at their image, their brand, their logo, like just the stuff on the surface? Because I feel like a company like Coca-Cola, for example, I feel like they change quite often. And I'm specifically referring to their bottle design. Have you seen what they're doing now? They've got their the big 2 liter bottles. It's now very confusing if you're buying a normal Coke or a Coke Zero. Damn you, Coca-Cola, fix that, because I want to buy 2 Diet Cokes and a Coke, and now I've got 3 Diet Cokes essentially, not on.
Yes, so they've they've done this they've actually done this quite a few times over the last couple of years, and it's super fascinating to me that they do this. So if you remember back to a few years ago, every Coke that you would get was like its own little mini brand. So Diet Coke has always been ring fenced and really treated as a completely separate product for a completely separate audience. You had Coke Life a few years ago. Do you remember that? The green one.
Oh yeah,
kind of half sugary. It was like the modern day Iron Brew equivalent of Coke. So it was like a kind of watered down Coke, basically.
I think they tried to make Coke seem healthy,
Yeah.
which is a
we're on to
good
lose them.
attempt, but we know your game.
Yeah.
Because that was they fell into that slightly awkward graphic design phase of a few years ago where they were just like, if we make it green, people think it's either healthy or eco-friendly.
Yeah.
It's neither.
That's right. And they even had the little leaf on it.
Mhm.
So
Make it
they're
green,
maybe going
stick a
for
leaf on
both
it.
of those messages.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You know, God loves a trier.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then now, like, it's clear that so the Coke Zero bottle's red now, right? And it's got a little strip that just says
The strip that's
zero sugar.
black. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're obviously completely changing that direction to make it seem like it's all very, very tied up. I mean,
Yeah. It's just
knows
a little
what-
bit confusing.
Yeah.
I'm just
It's amazing though that a brand that size that's so established
Mhm.
with people instantly recognise them, they're constantly still tweaking as well.
Yeah, constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
It's kind of a good lesson.
Yeah.
But I mean, in this case, it seems to backfire because now you don't know whether you're buying a Coke Zero or a Coke. And I get it. I find that kind of annoying. And but I guess the point that they're just constantly keeping an eye on, is there something we can do with our presentation that's going to
Mhm.
help us achieve whatever goal that is? Yeah. And they're still not resting on the laurels. I mean, it's a few years ago now, but think of like the name on the bottle campaign, which
Oh yeah.
was massive.
yeah.
Like, it's such a simple thing.
Yeah.
Like, buy a Coke for David.
Yeah.
And, that had an actual impact on sales. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's good to just keep looking at things. I don't, I think people probably get quite scared, and no one's suggesting that you spend a fortune rebranding, doing a new website, and like everything you guys have done recently. Like you're probably not. If someone was like, in 2 years you should do that again, you would be like, no thanks,
Hell
I'm
no.
fine.
Yeah.
But I think no one's suggesting that, because most of the time, if you're working with good designers, you're going to get something that's that works for you and that's not going to date quickly.
Yeah.
And will last you a little while. And as long as you're and you can tweak within that without having to actually redo everything. You can sort of look at all the different services you're offering and, packages or whatever, if you're sending out things to customers, and sort of look at all that and just tweak it as you go without having to overhaul everything.
Yeah.
And you can update a website, without having to completely rebrand it as well. So.
Yeah.
Again, that's like Coke, because they're never going to change that classic font logo,
Mm-hmm.
and they shouldn't, because it's great.
I love Coke.
It's like David's favourite topic.
Yeah. I guess I kind of went on a tangent with my rant there, but how often should people look at their own logo, their own image?
I think if it's working, then that's great.
Mhm.
Like I said, I guess 3 or 4 years is enough time to pass that there might be something that's happened in your business that's progressed in a way that is no longer being represented by what you have. It's always good to just constantly be keeping an eye and making sure that does the thing we actually do or the thing we want to do seem to come across in all our collateral. And
Yeah.
I guess, we change it all the time. Like, we seem to be a little bit schizophrenic that way.
We're not that bad. We just changed it recently, but
Yeah.
so we've had we had that one
we've
before.
tweaked
for
it
about
quite a few times, I think.
2004. Yeah, so we had that one for about 4 years probably, actually, and then we just changed it recently.
Mm.
Yeah.
We had bits of it for 4 years, but it did keep changing because the typography changed pretty
Yeah.
early. And then it's
So
changed
we
again.
refined it a little bit. Yeah.
Got refined once and then changed once since 2014. So it's 2018 now. And we changed it at the start of this year. So yeah, we kind of tweak it.
Yeah, I think I would say sort of somewhere between 4 and 5 years would be my rough estimate. I think
Yeah.
you can.
And we're not talking about scrapping it and doing a page one rewrite at that point, although you might feel that that's appropriate. Because obviously, like, if you're really established, then thing is, the wedding industry and industries with sole traders who are constantly dealing with new clientele anyway, like that's the beauty of it. So it's like Coke are not only out there trying to acquire new customers, but pretty much we in the wedding industry are only out there trying to acquire new customers. We don't really rely on repeat business, which means that this idea of having a really consistent brand that is really established and that lasts for 20 years doesn't need to, because you're only ever really interested when you're marketing yourself in the next customer. Which is obviously, I don't mean you're not interested in your current customers. I mean, from a marketing perspective, you're interested in the next sale. So you can kind of rewrite the entire thing without really having to worry too much about your having continuity between what the business looked like at the start.
Most couples will be with you for a period of a few years at most, and then they're gone, and you're not really marketing to them anymore. So it's like you can change things up, and no one's going to.
interestingly, like, so anytime we decide, so if we've decided, okay, we're going to update the website and we're going to rebrand ourselves or whatever it is, or we're going to tweak this or tweak that, instantly in my mind, I'm like, okay, so I can't share anything on social media now until that's done with, because things aren't perfect, things aren't optimized, so I need to put my life on hold and stall everything and not share stuff. That's obviously a horrible attitude to have, because it turns out that you can, like, it's suited, this has got me this far, so I've gained so much work so far from this existing website and this existing brand. I can keep going with it for 2 months while we sort out our stuff and launch the new thing. That should be the rational thing that I'm thinking. It just very often isn't.
Yeah.
But that's a good lesson in that, you know, punters that find you now that still love the old site, there's going to be them out there, and their money's as good as anyone else's.
Yeah.
And
we actually did that. It was like we'd sort of almost stopped entirely posting on Instagram, or we'd share our films to Facebook when they were sort of ready for blogging, but very little throughout the whole process of rebranding.
Yeah.
And we did sort of feel the effect of it, because it was like, oh wait, it's been slower to fill up this year's bookings or next year's, and it's like, oh, that would be because we weren't putting anything out there and weren't getting in front of people.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for, like, I know you said that you find it hard to do that, but any advice for people to, like, I don't know, stick with it and just...
Yeah, to be honest, like, I'm still torn on it, because I think, well, we always talk about not wanting to hotshot good stuff. So if you're about to launch a new website, it kind of makes sense to hold back a bunch of awesome stuff if you can and build it up. But as long as you don't have in your mind this idea that, okay, the thing I had before that I'm now changing, in the process of changing, is completely not fit for purpose, and therefore I'd be completely wasting my time by putting stuff out under that brand. That's probably not a particularly healthy attitude. That's just the attitude I always sort of default to. So I think you shouldn't think of it as, this thing's poisoned and I can never use it.
Yeah.
But you should also hold back some awesome stuff for when you want to make a splash with this new brand. So I guess figure out the balance.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about photographers, something who's shooting, you know, a reasonable amount of weddings a year, there's probably enough in there that you should be able to hold back, you know, the good stuff, the best stuff for launch time, but still have plenty of other content that's still great that you can be putting out in the meantime. Don't see why you can't find that balance,
for
basically.
Sure. Although photographers, along with filmmakers, we're in the unique position of the work we do, incidentally, is already ready-made social content, which is very luxurious for us. So that's probably not true of a venue or a florist, or, you know, someone who's not generating social content. They're generating work, and then they separately have to go away and create this content. So they're probably not sitting on a massive bank of stuff that they can hold back some stuff and hotshot other stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe then some advice is to do your best to sort of plan ahead with that, because there are certain times a year that are much better for making bookings than other times a year. I think most people would notice that. So maybe it's just a case of trying to think ahead, and, you know, if you don't have a huge amount of content to share, then it's like plan your launch for a good busy sort of booking season, which means you're not so worried about what you're putting out over the summer or something. If it's not if you've not got a lot to share, no one's paying attention because everyone's at weddings anyway. So
if someone was to go through the rebranding process, what benefits would people see, generally speaking? Like, why should people focus on branding?
So what benefits have you seen since you've rebranded? I'm going to make you do the work here.
Yeah, that's not fair. You can't answer a question with a question.
I can go first if you want.
You go first.
Right, okay.
And then I'll just nod and agree.
Okay. Well, they can't see you nodding. So anyway, well, to me, the benefit is that your goals, your business goals are aligned now, in success, obviously. Best case scenario, they're aligned with your visual presentation. So all of the benefits you would expect to come with that, I think, will probably come with that. Your people understand instantly when they encounter something of yours what you're all about, hopefully. It's going to ideally look awesome, so people are going to be maybe visually arresting, or it's going to be in some other way visually satisfying, where people look at it and they just aesthetically are pleased by it. You really can't underestimate the power of that, especially in the wedding industry, obviously, where almost everything is visually, like, it's a really visual industry in general. So that helps you to do two things. I think it helps you to be more discerning in the work that you take on, and I think it helps you to charge more money, basically. I think it's difficult to persuade people to part with very large sums of money for certain services if your work is awesome and it's presented in this way that's clunky and inefficient or dated looking, anything, I'm sure you guys have heard me say this a bunch, but if anything that's not as good as your work is diluting your work. So if your website is 8 years old but your work is kick-ass and is on the cutting edge of wedding filmmaking, then your website's diluting the quality of your work. It's making people think less of your aesthetic standards because you're putting a website out there that represents you, and you're saying this is good enough for us, and it's not necessarily very good. I'm not slagging off your old website. I'm just
No, it's fine. It's awful.
I'm genuinely not even thinking of your old website. I'm just using the
General
analogy.
terms.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much sums it up for me. So the benefits are you should be able to push further into the area that you want to be working in, because I presume everyone to some degree or another, or very many wedding suppliers to some degree or another, will want to do more of this and less of that, whatever this and that might be for them. So if you optimize your brand so that it seems to be telling the story of I do this really well, then you're just going to naturally get more inquiries for that, and you're going to, when people inquire with you who do want this, they are going to take seriously the idea that you do it well because you're telling that story throughout your brand and throughout all your copy and all the rest of it.
Yeah. So in terms of what we've noticed at the start of the process, we sort of, one of the things we highlighted was that we'd like to be doing more elopements because we hadn't really done any, and we wanted to sort of push into that market a wee bit more based on sort of being in Scotland with amazing landscapes around us.
Yeah.
Pushed on that, and we've sort of highlighted the Scottish aspect on our website, and yeah, we've noticed a big increase in elopement inquiries and bookings.
Awesome.
All of our copy kind of revolves around this idea of like heritage and Scotland, and it's funny, like when you start writing stuff out and you take a lot of time over the copy, or we did. It's amazing the effect that it can have on people. Just like the tone, and it goes along with the image, just the look of your website, but the tone of what you write is important as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of amazing just how deep words can be.
Yeah,
to your image as well.
100%. If you're thinking back to the Iron Brew thing that I brought up earlier on, like think of, again, like so much of the tone of that brand comes across in the dialogue in their adverts and in the copy that they use on their posters and stuff like that. Again, you've probably heard me say this a bunch of times, but like if you're being weighed up against a competitor, so if a client is thinking of booking you or they're thinking of booking a competitor, and you tell them that you do this, so this is different from tone, but we're still talking copy. If you tell them we do this thing really well, and the other guy who also does it really well doesn't tell them that expressly in the language, they will often credit you with it and not credit them with it because they don't have the tools that you have to look at your work and attribute descriptive terms to it and really analyse it and understand it. So I think just actually coming out and saying we do this and being explicit about it is actually something that not everyone is doing, and it's something that can give you the leg up on someone else that does just as good a job as you do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting one. I think the power of copy is amazing. And then, yeah, when it comes to tone and personality, 100%. And it's important though to be really consistent with that then, so that the type of language you use on your website is quite similar to the type of language you use on your Instagram and your Facebook. And you try and do all that, and you also try and be authentic and not come across as putting it on.
Yeah.
So it's a high wire act, but it's really, really worthwhile getting right. And that's another thing that I think, especially sole traders, small businesses, that is totally an afterthought for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that we overlooked until getting to the branding stage.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of, in your sort of past or as a filmmaker, musician, implementing some of those to niche one of your brands that you've had?
A couple of times. With
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to talk about Rooftop Mosaic?
Yeah, I was thinking of that during the when you were talking specifically about the copy part of it, because a few years back, so my it was my, and then it became our photography brand. It was Gail Kelly. It was my name, and it was because you start and you think I don't know what to do, so I'll use my name. But my name isn't as cool as some of the other names.
Chantal LaChance Gibson,
Nikki Ledbetter, and all these people.
Yeah, we were going to be called Simon and Gregg Do Photos. Doesn't quite work.
So we sort of rebranded David came up with the name Rooftop Mosaic. We focused in on urban weddings, city weddings. That was our thing. That was what we wanted to do. And we wrote all the copy to sort of match that, basically. And obviously we selected images. So every lovely wedding that I'd shot that was in a field was binned, and everything that was city was put forward. But actually, I think it was the copy that probably made the most difference, because we had quite a lot of inquiries that came through after that really, when they were writing the little descriptive bit where it's like, tell me about your wedding and stuff, they were really going on about, oh, it's in the city because we love cities too, and we love, and they were really hammering home that idea, as if they were trying to sell us the fact that they loved cities as much as we did.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was such a small change to there's not a lot of copy on my website, it's mostly photography based, but to see that difference was just really interesting.
Yeah. And I'm always wary when we talk about this. So Rooftop Mosaic has always been a part-time thing for us. So it's not like we've set the wedding photography world alight with this idea, but what we do still get now is we still get inquiries to this day, having done no marketing for it for several months. We still get inquiries to this day, which are just all urban focused. Like if we went through the inquiries for Rooftop Mosaic and read them out to you, they're all either they're city weddings and they're obsessed with this idea, or they're saying, hey, listen, I'm really sorry, I'm getting married in a barn, but we love X, Y, and Z, and blah, blah, blah. People are actually apologetic about it, which makes me feel kind of bad.
I know.
Because I don't know how snobby we must look that people are apologising to us for their wedding venues. But like clearly that's been a really successful route into focusing on a specific thing and thus adding value to ourselves. Because if you're getting married in a city venue and you're looking at 5 photographers and all 5 photographers tell you, well, we love urban weddings, you believe us because it's front and centre and it's the only thing we've committed to.
Yeah.
We're not telling you that as a sales tactic. It's right there on the website. It's right there in everything that we do. Now, whether you could sustainably do that full time in a very saturated market, I don't know, because we haven't tried it. But what I can tell you is that it does help us to differentiate ourselves in that very saturated market, the wedding photography market is a particularly saturated market, and it's particularly difficult to differentiate. If you think of the wedding filmmaking market, there's less of us doing good work in that market for a start.
Yeah.
And we've got all these additional elements to differentiate ourselves. So we have everything photographers have in terms of our use of light and composition.
Yep.
And then we have soundtrack and we have motion and recorded audio on the day and stuff like that. So we have all these additional elements. We've got runtime. There's so many different things we can do with it. Not to diminish all the wonderful things you can do in photography, but all I mean is there are more elements and there's less competition. So to differentiate in the wedding filmmaking market is going to be easier to do than to differentiate in the very, very saturated wedding photography market.
With Jack was designed from the ground up and is tailored specifically for creatives. Whether you provide a service like design, development or photography, or offer advice to clients, With Jack is for you. It's focused on creatives. Insurance shouldn't be complicated, so With Jack has made every step easy. You'll deal with one form and talk to one Jack as you sign up, get covered, and move on with your day. With Jack is all about bespoke insurance for creatives. Simple. That doesn't mean more forms or faff, it means less. It's not about endless features and stale service. It's about one solid policy and the personal touch. Bye-bye unnecessary fuss. Hello, creative friendly insurance. Be a confident creative. Well, saying that, I know a lot of photographers now are doing fusion. That seems to be a big thing.
Yep.
And I wonder how easy they find it.
Yeah. I think you and I would probably agree that becoming a fusion photographer and adding that product to your business is not a no-brainer. It's not an easy thing to do. And most people won't do it well, probably, for a long time.
Yeah.
Because you can't really go, well, I'm already doing 95% of the work. All I need to do is, instead of hitting the shutter button, hit the record button.
Yeah.
You know, it really doesn't work like that. And I think people either are wise to that or will become wise to it quickly when they try and do it.
Yes. Yeah, there's already a few photographers I know who have tried the video and just don't. Right. They don't like it.
Yeah.
They don't like the process, but what they've made isn't representative of where they are.
Yeah.
or their photography work.
I think that's a really difficult thing when you go to add a Fusion product to a really successful photography business, is that your photos are up here.
Yeah.
And then your video is not going to be up here on day one.
Yeah.
Obviously, because there's a steep learning curve. So what do? Do you put it out there and get more work, and in the process start to slightly dilute the quality of what's out there representing you overall? Or do you keep it under your belt until you're kicking ass at it?
Yeah.
Difficult decision.
That is a difficult decision, yeah.
I'm glad we don't have to make that decision.
I know. I'd love to have someone on the podcast to talk about that.
We know a good few people we can chat to.
Yeah, so you teach a workshop about Fusion.
Mm-hmm.
We did, yes.
Yeah.
Is that...
How does that make you feel?
Oh, fine.
I think I've told you before, I like the idea because it's, if you guys are teaching people how to make decent Fusion videos, it's going to raise the profile of wedding filmmaking as a whole.
Right.
Because there's still a stigma around it that, it's an old guy with a camera.
Yep.
Although it's becoming a bit cooler now and more creative, but still need more people raising the bar sort of thing. So,
but so you said raising the bar. I do want to make it clear that video is not easy. If you're going to add it into your package and not charge what it's worth, then you are lowering the bar. Please do not lower the bar. Value what you do, and make sure others know the value,
for sure,
and charge the value. So as long as people are understanding that they're not just love Fusion. If people are just adding it in, give it some thought. Is what I'm saying. Yeah,
I agree, and I'm glad we're on this topic because it's bringing back all the angst that I had when or anxiety that I had when I was announced that Fusion workshop.
There was quite a lot of people who were against it, weren't they?
I mean, it seemed to be that seemed to be true. Yeah, obviously predominantly wedding filmmakers. Do you personally get the impression that Gail and I are putting out a message that you should do this thing for cheap?
Well, I've not seen your workshop, but
that's true. But you've seen other things.
Impressions, knowing you guys, no.
Right.
I know that one of the things you'll be pushing is that it's not a full-fledged film that they're going to be offering. So you've got to sort of factor that in. Yeah. Sort of thing.
I mean, all of the concerns that you would have. So you'd have concerns as a wedding filmmaker that it's going to be a cheap product that people are offering, which is going to have the effect of undercutting. It's not like for like, but it's going to have the effect of basically devaluing the general idea of filmmaking at weddings. And a lot of people had the idea that this is also something that photographers are going to missell to their customers. So they're going to make it look like a wedding video and people are going to book it. And by the time people realise it's not really a wedding video in the traditional sense, or even in the modern traditional sense, it's going to be too late and you've been sold this thing you didn't really want. Yeah. And to me, I understand why those concerns would occur to someone. But first of all, from our point of view, I mean, we're not putting any message into the world that either of those two things are a healthy approach to adding a Fusion product. But also, I don't know of any wedding photographer that wants to be dealing with clients who thought they'd booked one thing and ended up getting another. There's no responsible wedding. That doesn't last very long. That's not a long-term strategy at all. And I don't know anyone personally that wants to take on that strategy. So those were two key considerations from a marketing point of view: is you price this so that it's worthwhile and you're not devaluing the industry, because that's why you add new skills to your skill set in the first place, is to reward yourself with, if you shoot weddings and you're able to do it for a certain price and you're able to commit the edit in a certain short period of time, and then you add this other product that you kind of charge less for but that takes you more time, well, you've just not done the math there at all, because now your time is less valuable because you're spending more of it for less money. So that's a daft thing for a wedding photographer to want to aspire to. And then the other daft thing is the idea that, well, I'm going to produce this video and I'm going to let the client think they're getting a bells and whistles wedding video with audio and with full coverage of the speeches, but then I'm going to produce this 4-minute quirky thing and they're going to have to live with it like that. That obviously backfires super quickly. It's always really fun just to see something unexpected at this point. And that's really hard to do, I think. So we obviously weren't going to talk about Fusion. We just kind of went on to a tangent. Sorry, let's go back to branding and finding a niche. You mentioned finding a niche. And being able to charge more. Is that how you do it? Is that how you charge more? I think how you charge more is you present yourself really well and really consistently, and you differentiate. But differentiation is not the same thing as being niche or specialising. So being niche and specialising, that's a way to differentiate. And that's a way that I personally like, and that we've used to good effect in a few businesses, including the wedding band that I play in, which is called Nick Bruce and His Blinding Lights.
Yes, fantastic.
At Nick Bruce Music. nickbrucemusic.com. So that's because we played nothing but like funk soul bangers.
Yeah.
Early 2000s R&B, that stuff.
Stuff you can groove to.
Exactly. Yeah, really, really groovy stuff that you also have a lot of nostalgia tied up in. Anyway, check them out. But the point I'm making is, so specialisation works for us and it's fun for us, and I wanted to do that because I wanted to play that type of music, and as did the other band members. That's helpful for us because there's not, now if you're looking for that really specific thing, the market doesn't serve you 25 different options in Scotland for that. We're in a pretty, it's not a broad church, the funk soul and early 2000 R&B wedding band scene. So yeah, inevitably, like a bunch of the balance of power in that relationship has shifted from the client to us, which allows you to charge more money. That sounds cynical. Actually, what that allows us to do is it allows us to rehearse more, be better, offer a more refined product, get better musicians, the horn players and the drummer and the ringers that we have effectively, albeit they're permanent band members and it's a fixed lineup band. They're the best we could get because, we can afford to pay them a lot of money. So you get a really, really high standard of musicianship at your wedding. Point being, we did that through specialisation, but specialisation is only one way to differentiate. You differentiate through, I think, being specific. So specificity in general, I think, is key to differentiating. So you're not just a wedding photographer. You're a wedding photographer, and then there's some detail about you. You're trying to give the customer a reason to say, I really want it to be this person. It has to be this person. I'm not weighing up 5 equal options. I'm really attracted to this person for whatever reason. And that can absolutely be a personality thing. It can be a very specific niche that you work in, but more often than not, that probably won't suit the majority of businesses. So, like I said, it's suited us in the past, but I think if you're just, you don't have to specialise in a style. You can just have a particular attitude and have some kind of aesthetic signature. Doesn't need to be overt, and just have a really specific tone and just connect with people in a way. Give people something. Don't be a blank canvas. So definitely niching down is a way that I love, but it's not the only way at all. But differentiating yourself, yes, because your value really lies in how you differ from everyone else, because that's the only way really to weigh people up. So you don't want to spend, if you get your stuff in front of the correct eyeballs, you don't want to waste that window of opportunity by telling them stuff that your competitors are also telling them. You'll get full coverage of the ceremony and the speeches. Let's worry about that down the line, but let's talk about the things that make you first, and then go on to the nitty gritty when someone's in that active buying mode and they're really comparing features. But don't waste that up front, because then you had this window of opportunity to say something, and you said kind of nothing.
So obviously people can come to you guys and get help with that.
For sure.
But is there one sort of piece of advice that would get them started that they could do themselves to finding what makes them different?
Yeah, I think we sort of, in any sort of branding process, we give people a little bit of homework at the start anyway, to sort of go through their work and their service, whatever that is, and what they like about it, what they don't like about it, what they want to do more of, what they want to do less of, just answering these sort of basic questions, and like taking some time with it and really thinking about what you want from your business, because I think you've mentioned that before. I think you do get to have a say. It's not all about what the client wants. It's like, what do you want to do? What kind of service do you want to offer? What how much do you want to earn? How much do you want to work? Really looking into all that aspect of your business, because those are all the kind of questions that we would ask people in a sort of first consultation anyway. So you can do that at home, and you can look at your work and find some answers, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good starting point, because that knowing yourself, like knowing your business really well and understanding it and understanding where you want it to go. You're basically, if you could design your own business and forge your own path, what would it be? Because that's not the mode people are in, especially in the middle of wedding season. You're not thinking about, what could we do?
Yeah.
You're just trying to get through stuff, and you're falling into patterns all the time. Resting on your laurels to some extent, maybe at least as far as fulfilling your way through the backlog. you're doing the same things and you're following it in the same patterns. So what if you took a step back and were like, what would this be if it could be anything?
Yeah.
And that's a good and then you know the goals, because knowing the goals is the only way to start to present yourself better. And I think that's probably a complicated process for people. I take it, I mean, you guys obviously did something to that effect.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
obviously we didn't work with you guys. We decided
There was a reason for that.
when we
by the way.
started to think, right, we need to rebrand. We're like, right, who is there available? Obviously you guys were top of mind because we are friends with you guys.
And we had been to your workshop.
But
Not your fusion one, your branding.
we sort of decided
Workshops.
that
My God.
we decided that we didn't want to go with you guys for a couple of reasons, mainly because we wanted to be working with someone that wasn't a friend before, there wasn't a pre-existing relationship.
Yep.
So we wanted to get somebody that was, before we started, purely client relationship. And like, we've got on really well with the folk we worked with, and it was great. But yeah, we decided we wanted someone that was removed from us as people and as business.
Yep.
We didn't want to sour a friendship because we are nightmare clients.
No, I get that attitude, and I feel that way anytime we work with friends. I'm always a little bit wary because it just makes every part of the process potentially a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get something back and you're like, I don't really love that, but do I want to, that's not my hill to die on, so do I want to pick a fight over that or push back on that? It's a lot easier to do that kind of thing and to really ask for exactly what you want when you're just dealing with someone that you're only dealing with in a purely professional capacity.
Yeah.
For sure.
One thing I do feel that wasn't missing but would have been a big benefit of working with you guys is the knowledge of the industry. Like the guys we worked with knew nothing about the wedding industry, which had its pluses as well.
Yeah.
But there was times where we had to sort of like that sort of explain things to them and sort of thing. And if you guys had been doing it, you would have known that and moved quicker maybe.
Right.
There's also pluses to them not knowing the industry as well, though, that sort of sometimes you'd be like, oh, I'm not sure if that'll work. And then you're like, wait, why?
That's right. Yeah, because they were thinking less about branding a wedding company.
Totally.
It was more just branding a company.
Yeah.
And that definitely had its pluses there. I suppose, I mean, you guys, you will be able to remove yourself from the wedding world as well.
Yeah.
Because you work for loads of different companies that aren't wedding based.
Yeah, probably the majority.
Yeah, we do a lot of sort of food and beverage stuff as well. And I studied graphic design. So I worked in an agency for 6 years where we did a whole bunch of absolutely nothing to do with weddings. It was, all accountants and property development and, all random types of businesses.
Yeah.
And we have other designers that work with us that aren't in the wedding industry. So it's always nice to kind of have a little back and forth in the office when we're working on branding projects, and they're coming at it from the perspective of they have no idea what it's like to be involved in the wedding industry, and then we come back with this is what it's like, or speaking from the perspective of a customer and like what they'd be looking for, and that knowledge. So it's quite
Yeah.
quite
And we do try to guard against, because I mean, to me, the major drawback of potentially being really deep in an industry is that you're just looking around the industry and going, what are the best aspects of this that I can just siphon off and include in our own work?
Yeah.
However, it's not a big issue in the wedding industry because there's not a tremendous amount of brand innovation going on in the wedding industry in the first place. There's
How many deer heads have you seen? Like skulls?
deer heads and skulls. Let's not get specific. But yeah, there's a whole section of the wedding industry that literally has just never thought about this stuff. And then there's the high end market where people have thought about it and people are doing really good work in it. People have really nice brands in the high end market. And then there's other people who want to have really nice brands in the high end market and are aware that they don't necessarily think of these things and prioritize them, or they'd like to, but they don't want to focus on that just now, or whatever it is. But the brand thing, I think, is at least on everyone's radar in the high end market. And then there's this whole other section of the market that isn't thinking about that stuff at all.
But even like you just said there, the high end. So yeah, the high end market are thinking about that. But I actually, maybe that's just, maybe I'm talking nonsense. But when you say that, I think of photographers and filmmakers and those sort of high end people. But actually, I think there's probably a large section of the market that are high-end florists and dressmakers and jewelers and things like that also just aren't thinking about that stuff. And I would love to see more of that. I would love to just see more great presentation of that sort of stuff online and things like that.
Very interesting. Let's get deep for a minute.
Okay.
Because I like the deep conversations.
Sorry. It's you I was laughing at.
Yeah, go on.
We have spoken about this before. But why do we move forward?
You bastards.
We can now all hear your answer.
I think it's a bit of an inane question.
This is going to be weird to a lot of people that don't know what this is about.
Yeah.
True. Do you want to fill them in, Greg?
Well,
just very briefly.
Is it worth it?
David,
let me set your expectations. I don't have a good answer for this question. So by all means pursue it.
surely your answer is
The definitive answer.
the final edit of the film that you made.
Exactly. I'll need to direct you.
Because you could cut what people were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So David did a video for Photography Farm and chose to ask each presenter that question: why do we move forward? So
I should clarify, I did that because when I shot the video, I was physically moving the camera forward, so it seemed like the inevitable thing to do was just to ask that question.
I thought you did it just because they all had quite sexy accents and you were just like, let's
That's
get
true.
these guys on
There
camera.
was an Australian guy, Canadian lady.
those two accents, that's it.
Yeah. And then Chu was on it as well.
Yep.
Yep.
He also has an accent.
That's right.
Tell you what, I'll link that video in the show notes if anyone wants to
yes.
watch it.
Oh, that's
and
very
that
kind.
is the answer to why we move forward.
That's why we move forward. It's all
It's
contained
whatever,
in that.
whatever,
second.
whatever they said.
Yeah.
Is that the end? I hate to see it come to an end. I like chatting.
I thought of a mini rant that I want to do before we finish.
Oh yes, a wee
So we-
salty segment.
We talked about, so I want to be clear that this idea of like charging more money, right? Because when industry has a reputation for, the minute you add the word wedding to something, blah, 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 and the price doubles and etc. And that's obviously not, I don't think that's what any of the four of us are really talking about here.
No.
I did have a heated discussion with a guy, a piper, on one of the aforementioned Facebook groups, which is characterised by a different side of the industry. Anyway, point I'm making,
You're very PC.
there's a lot of people, I know, tediously polite.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people in this. There's this massive group, 20,000 odd people, full of suppliers and brides. It's a Scottish group. You might know the one I'm referring to.
I do.
And there's a tendency in that part of the market, the kind of cut each other's throat part of the market, race to the bottom side of the market, where suppliers will come in and they'll throw other suppliers or other types of suppliers under the bus in order to kind of white knight in front of clients. And there was this guy, this piper, who came in one time. A bride had asked, what can I expect to pay for a piper? And this particular piper came in and said, the most you should ever expect to pay for a piper in this universe is £150. Anyone that's charging you more than £150 is completely ripping you off, right? So I asked him, what do you charge? Can you guess what he charged?
£150?
£150. So I was like, okay, so you must be the best fucking piper that there is, right? There's no headroom above you. You can't improve at all, because the most you can ever charge without ripping someone off is 150 quid. So you're at the very top of your game. You're at the top of the industry. So what happens if you buy pipes that are 4 times as expensive as the pipes you have, the most beautiful sounding pipes in the world? What happens then? Where do you go from there? Is it justifiable to raise your pricing? And his answer was, there's nothing wrong with my pipes, which I think misses the point of the question. But yeah, so I thought, I just want to be clear when we talk about pushing our pricing that we're not necessarily doing that to I mean, it is, we are in business to reward ourselves. That's the whole point of what we're doing, and there really is nothing wrong with that. And there is no arbitrary ceiling to what you can charge. But also, by charging more money, it does allow you to take more time on the product. It allows you to invest more in what you're using to shoot. If you're a wedding filmmaker or a photographer, it allows you to invest more in whatever you're doing. So there's benefits for the market should have a range of options, and it should have a range of high-end options as well. And there really is nothing wrong with charging what you think your time is worth. That's why we're self-employed. That's why we put up with all the negative that comes with it, with the unpaid holidays and the stress of, am I going to make my sales targets for this month? Because it's not an arbitrary, do I get my 1% commission this month? It's, do we eat? So there's all that stuff, but then in success you should be able to reward yourself with you shouldn't have this mentality of, well, it's unreasonable to charge this, that, or the other, because I don't think that's not why we're in business.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're saying is, if you want to raise your prices, buy some nice pipes.
If you're a piper. I'm just saying it's an option.
Take a step back, look at your work you've been doing, and then get in touch with Walnut Wasp.
That's obviously
That's right.
that's what I've been subliminally signalling this whole time.
So if people do want to get in touch, you've plugged the band already, so you don't need to do those links.
I know.
Good shout.
Plug whatever you want. What website or where can they find you online?
They can find us at www.walnutwasp.com.
Yeah, that was www.walnutwasp.com.
Actually, we don't do this, so just walnutwasp.com.
Cool kids don't do the
We don't
W's
that
anymore. Yeah.
Definitely not. And
All the W's.
and if you go on there and fill in an inquiry form, you'll get a nice reply from David.
Yes, within 10 to 14 days. You can also find us at Instagram, https://www.instagram.com/walnutwasp. At Walnut Wasp.
And on there, you'll also get lots of David's lovely chat. You'll get a carefully curated Instagram feed from myself.
Yeah.
And
But then
some
the stories,
mangled Instagram stories from David.
Just whatever trash occurs.
they don't happen very often, but when they do, they're worth it.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there.
Thank you. The other thing I plugged in for people getting into the industry is we did Wedding Marketing 101 in January, and I'll probably supplement that this January with a few new episodes, but it's basically a big sort of resource on marketing yourself in the wedding industry, which I hope would be good for people starting out, for sure.
Yeah, it's a series of videos that they're online. You can
blogs.
find them on our website, and they're just available for you to watch for free.
walnutwasp.com/wedding marketing 101.
Well done.
It's definitely worth checking out if you're new to the industry, but even if you've been in it, it's worth just looking at it, because you'll learn something that you either knew and you've not been implementing, and it just sparks something in your head to be like, oh yeah, I should really be doing that. So yeah, even if you're well established, check it out.
Yeah. Did you like it?
Yeah.
What was your favourite part? I'm only kidding.
The live videos.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm not going to say what you...
I think people really enjoyed
was a
the chest of drawers that were in the background.
Yeah, that's
actually.
true.
Yes, I liked your quirky wee thing of changing whatever was on the chest of drawers every time.
Actually, yes.
I've just given that away. Spoiler.
There's a Brooklyn gin bottle in the back of one of your videos. It made me buy a Brooklyn gin.
Really?
And I loved it. My wife hated it.
Really?
So I got a load of gin from that. Thank you.
Nice.
Nice.
Very welcome.
Cool. Well,
That was our principal goal for that episode.
That's right.
well, thanks for coming in.
Thanks very much for having
Thanks
us.
for having
Catching
us.
up.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Thank you.
You've been listening to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creatives. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit that subscribe button so that you know the next time an episode goes online. Leave a review. That's a massive help. And spread the word by telling a friend. But until next time, enjoy your life.